Oh, you bought the big house with the indoor pool? Great. Now we can bring our kids over for a swim. No cheesecake. You can't. I just bought a house. It has 5 bedrooms, an office, a large basement and an indoor pool. Apart from the usual, why do you need such a big house if you don't have children? I've also gotten the comment in the title. Most of my neighbors have kids and many of them assumed that I'm going to let their gremlins in so they can swim in my pool. And they have the gall to look offended when I tell them no, the pool is for me, my boyfriend, my friends and my dogs. It also seems to bother them that I keep my gate locked at all times when I'm home because our kids would love to play in your front yard. You have so much space. I've already installed security cameras and I'm going to place cacti around the boundary wall. Must do all I can to fend off the entitlement invasion. Hawthorn and blackthorn make good spiky impenetrable hedges and also attract birds throughout the year. They are much harder to bypass than roses or cacti. Roses are also great boundary enforcers. When I lived in a public housing suburb, my mum had huge zucchini roses and we were one of the few who didn't get broken into. It's rude for strangers to assume your stuff is for their use. Just dig a moat around your house and fill it with lava, but they'll put water on it and make obsidian. As someone with a kid, I literally could never imagine seeing something someone else had like a yard or pool and thinking, my kid should be able to use that. How does that even happen in these people's brains? I can understand asking if you can. Around once a month, in the spring/summer when the weather's right for it, someone asks if they can fish in my parents' pond. Sometimes the answer's yes, sometimes it's no, depending on a lot of factors. And of course, if you ask, be prepared for the answer to possibly be no and don't push it. It's skipping asking and assuming they'll let you / asking and getting upset if the answer isn't yes. That's the problem, emo. Learn to speak English and stop listening to foreign music. I'm Scottish. This just happened to me and I'm both shocked and laughing my zucchini off. I was on a bus on my way into college, listening to a punk band I've recently got heavily into, a band from Brixen in the German-speaking region of South Tyrol in Italy called Fry Wild. The bus is fairly packed so I'm right at the front at the but where you'd park a pram or a wheelchair. A woman with a pram gets onto the bus and sits in the only free seat, next to me. She looks down at my phone, why, I still can't work out, and sees that I'm listening to a song called Siegestein auf, Wovelia liegen bleiben, roughly translated, rather aptly, to winners stand where losers fall, and yanks one of my earphones out. You live in Scotland, stop listening to your zucchini Polish music. God, all you banana Polacks are all the same, refusing to be decent citizens and speak English. This is why we voted to leave the EU, Scotland didn't, but I digress, so we could get you rotten nuts out of here. I'm Scottish, born and bred. Apart from a week in Amsterdam, 2 weeks in Morocco, 3 weeks in the States and a week in France, I've stayed very much in the UK my entire life. Never been to Poland, or Germany for that matter. I eventually had enough of her banana, so I tried to put her in her place. This is German music. Also, I was born here. To Scottish parents. Karen tried to make her rebuttal but I got there first. Also, how does me listening to some punk rock that happens to be in German affect you? I have my headphones, you can't hear it. Karen's eyes lit up, as if she'd won the Karen lottery. Why are you listening to that sinful, demonic music in public? You're gonna scare my kid. I look in the pram. Firstly, your child is sound asleep. Secondly, I have my headphones in, you can't hear it, I can't hear it. Zucchini off and let me listen to my music in peace. Maybe Polish people aren't the problem in this country. Maybe it's stuck-up judgmental racist coconut like you. As I called her out on her BS, she whacked the stop button, and yeeted herself and the pram right off the bus at the next stop. Thank banana. Edit. Wow, I didn't realize the banana up history of Fry Wild. Kinda ashamed I let the banging music get into my head. Thanks for pointing this out guys, I'll be sure to get them off my radar. I read the entire thing with a Scottish accent in my head. I read this all in a Scottish accent too. Might be cause I'm Scottish to write enough. This reminds me of a time when I was about 13-14, Me and a bunch of friends were having a picnic lunch near the fountains in town. All of us were dressed rather punk/goth/alternative. Some random adults we didn't know came and sort of encircled us and started reciting Bible passages at us and calling us devil worshippers. We got really confused when the 4 Christian people in our group started reciting them back. The rest of us just carried on with our picnic, and eventually they left us alone. As they were leaving, one of the lads just shouted, "Have a nice day," and we all waved them off. Still no idea what they were trying to achieve there. Woman shrugging. I would have paid to see their reactions when your friends started quoting scripture at them back. They must have been so thrown off. I appreciate you standing up for people from other countries. I am not the biggest fan of my own people. I'm Polish, by the way. We do have our faults, but I find it intolerable when people get so zucchini racist. Most of us came here to work, and we work hard, unlike the racist coconut dwellers who love to sponge benefits. Yes, I'm Polish, but I was raised in the UK from the age of 7. You can't tell I'm Polish as I have an English accent, but my mother who came here with me still has a strong Polish accent despite speaking perfect English. Anyone who speaks like that to my mother is asking for a broken nose. They shouldn't have inserted it into someone else's business if they didn't want it broken. All of this, no one ever realizes until they hear me speaking to my parents, or see my passport. I've had so many English friends be openly racist about Poles because I don't sound like one. Didn't expect that Fry Wild would have a lot of listeners outside of German-speaking countries. Though I think a lot of people would disagree with calling them a punk band. I don't think that they are punks at all. In their early days, they covered songs from, in Germany, long forbidden right rock bands. Hey op! I don't know how much you know about the German language, but I just wanted to inform you that here in Germany Fry Wild is highly criticized for their songs, which often include texts that could almost be considered alt-right propaganda. Of course you can listen to whatever music you like, but I just wanted you to know that most people wouldn't like to be associated with that band. If you like German punk in general, I can recommend the bands Die Aster and Schmutzki. P.S. Sorry for spelling errors, I'm too lazy to check right now. I know very little German. I've translated the song titles, but that's about it. I honestly thought better of her than that. Sorry this is so long, I promise none of it is boring. Lol. Edit, TL, Doctor now included at the bottom by request. Smile. I grew up in a cult that believed, among other things, that women were the property of men, and children were the property of parents. So as an unmarried daughter, I was basically a cherished slave. I ran the house, meal planned, cooked and even homeschooled my youngest siblings, all while trying to homeschool myself through high school. Having grown up my whole life this way, I didn't even know the law would have been on my side if I had decided to defy my parents and move out when I turned 18. My parents constantly reminded me that until they gave me away to a husband, I was still their child and would obey them, as the mouthpieces of God in my life. One day my parents told me they had received a phone call from the parents of another family we knew. Their oldest son had noticed me and wanted permission to court me. So per protocol, the parents would talk to each other, then each talk to their kids and arrange the whole thing. My mom was beaming with pride, but I thought about it for a little bit and said I didn't want to do it. Mom's smile disappeared and she cried, "What? Why?" I gave her my reasons, very good ones I thought, but my mom wasn't satisfied and told me I was not allowing God to work in my life and that I should just obey them and trust that God's will would be done. Being the good girl I was, I relented and said yes. Then followed a week or two of awkward family gatherings between our two houses, because this version of courtship never allowed for the couple to be alone together. Tried to ease the tension by telling funny stories and encouraging other family members to talk, but only received stern rebukes from his mother, who very clearly did not approve of me. Once she said we don't believe in practical jokes, so we are not impressed by that story. I mumbled that I wasn't trying to impress them, and they could talk about anything they wanted, but no one did. Another time I was alone with his mom in the living room and she stated, I only had 2 requirements on the girl he chose. 1, that she came from a good family, and 2, that she knew her Bible. And you have both of those. so I'm not going to say anything. I was confused at feeling so rejected when I didn't even want this in the first place. I mean, really, who was courting who? Then I got a job offer as the church receptionist, and my parents told me his parents had called them again and said they did not approve of women working outside the home and didn't want me to take the job. We believed the same way, except it was after the woman was a mother. Before she had kids, it was up to her father or husband whether or not she could work someplace else. This being a strange situation where my father allowed it, but the guy I was courting didn't, my parents told me to call him and get his permission too. I thought that phone call went well. He basically said he was not my husband yet and I should follow my own family's rules. He didn't mind and was okay with it, so I happily accepted the job. The next day my parents told me his parents had called and cancelled the whole relationship. It felt weird to get dumped without ever hearing from the guy dumping me, but it solved my problem, and I moved on a little confused and definitely not in the mood for anyone else to court me. 2 years later, at 19, I still wasn't married, shocker, and his family thought that meant God was saving me for him. The whole scenario repeated itself, but this time, my dad insisted that the guy court him first so he could decide if he was even good enough for me before my heart got broken again. My dad told them until he made a decision one way or the other, he did not want any of them to contact me and tell me what was going on. The guy decided no contact couldn't possibly mean letters, so he wrote me a 5-page apology for dumping me 2 years before and confessing that he had been falling in love with me and wanted to know if it was worth his time to even get to know my dad. My parents saw his name on the envelope and confiscated the letter before finally deciding it was too late, and they explained the whole thing. I was honestly insulted that a guy I had barely seen in 2 years would say he loved me, but doubt if it was worth his time to follow my family's requirements to court me. Especially after the last time he tried it, his family made me feel like trash. We agreed to meet at a local restaurant and agree on the terms of the relationship and decide if we even wanted to try it again. I sat on one side of the table with my parents on either side of me. He sat on the other side with his parents on either side of him. It felt like we had lawyers. His dad immediately started yelling at my dad for denying his son and saying it was so obvious that I wanted this and he was holding me back. My dad is a quiet man and he sat there like an angry stone while this man yelled at his face in the middle of the restaurant. It got so heated and embarrassing. The guy who liked me excused himself to the bathroom to throw up. While he was gone, his dad also said if we didn't accept his son, there might never be another guy to come along and marry me. This made me laugh because I wasn't that desperate to just accept the first guy to ask just because I was scared no one else would. I didn't care if I ever got married or not, even though I didn't dare tell anyone else that. The evening ended with an agreement that we would pick up where we left off. We thought that meant more courtship. They thought they already did courtship, so now it was an agreement to get engaged. The mistake quickly revealed itself a few days later when another guy friend I had, new guy, emailed my dad himself and asked permission to court me. My dad told me I should tell the guy I was courting and ask him if I could stay friends with a guy who liked me, but who I had rejected. The guy came up with what I thought was a pretty good plan. My dad would tell him I was already courting someone else, and then I could introduce him to some of my other friends, and then maybe he would leave on his own. Thought that was brilliant, and my dad spent the rest of the evening writing a tactful reply to the new guy. The guy I was courting was now aware that I had friends who were not female. Their family believed guys and girls could never be just friends, so I was essentially cheating on him with 20 other guys. He called me the next morning, 6 days after I had agreed to this courtship, and asked my permission to ask my dad's permission to ask me to marry him. Basically the lamest over the phone proposal ever. He said he was in love with me and we didn't have to get married right away, but that I would just be his and have a ring on my finger so no one could take me away from him. I told him I was flattered that he thought he loved me and I wished I could say I loved him back, but I didn't. It had only been 6 days and I hadn't even decided how I felt about him yet. His voice changed instantly and he angrily snapped, asking if I was still talking to that guy who also liked me. I was shocked. I had never seen this side of him before. That's why it should take longer than 6 days to find a spouse, kids. I tried telling him that my dad had only just replied to his email and I hadn't had a chance to introduce him to my friends yet. He said that wasn't the plan. We agreed you wouldn't talk to him anymore. I shut him down and said, "Well, I'm only doing what you told me to do. We are not engaged yet. I talk to lots of guys and it doesn't mean anything romantic. We're just friends." His voice quieted down, but still sounded bitter, and he said, "Well, if you can't agree to not talk to any other boys and only talk to me, maybe we shouldn't call this courting right now." "Maybe we shouldn't," I replied. We agreed that I would take a week to think about it and call him when I had made my decision. Marry him and forsake all the male friends I had known since I was 5, or cut off the relationship for the second time. I told my parents what happened, and they tried to convince me to just do what he wanted, but I finally yelled at them for the first time in my life that I was not going to marry anyone I did not love. My dad was angry, but my mom sent me to my room and said we could talk about it later. I had a week, after all. I was very sad. The only reason I was considering it was because my parents insisted it was God's will, and I really wanted to do what God said. But at the same time, this family seemed even more strict than my own, and I would also miss all my old friends. There was so much to think about. About an hour later, I got 2 calls from this guy's mother, which I let go to voicemail. I didn't want to talk to her right then. Next thing I know, my little brother came up holding the house phone, saying it was the guy's mom, and she demanded to talk to me. She scolded me for a long time, saying I had cheated on her son and that he had called off work this morning because he was worried sick over calling me and asking me to marry him. He all but called me a harlot because of all the guys I was talking to, while I tried to tell her I was not in a relationship with any of them. Guy's mom, you cheated on him. You are in a relationship with every person you meet. Me, but not every relationship is a romantic one. Guy's mom, between guys and girls, yes. For example, my husband is my best friend and I would never talk to other men, and neither would your mom. Me, oh yes she would. She talks to other men all the time and she's friends with lots of people. Guy's mom, well, I'm shocked. I honestly thought better of her than that. She then demanded to know why I needed 7 days to pray about whether or not to marry her son. Guy's mom, God doesn't take that long to answer prayer. It sounds like you already know how you feel and you're just too scared to say it. It should take a day or 2 at the most. Me, look, your son agreed to let me have a week. If he can't do that, then the answer is no. Guy's mom, well let's not be too hasty. I thought, who's being hasty? I wanted a week. She then told me she would go talk to her son and her husband and see what they wanted to do. I hung up the phone and threw it across the room. I had never been accused of anything like that before, and I curled up in a ball and cried. My mom heard me and came to see what was wrong. When I told her everything that horrible woman said to me and I stated firmly that I never wanted to see anyone from that family again, she called my dad up, and he was angry for me being accused of being a harlot with all these boys, but told me I was not allowed to make my decision until a week was up, because that was what I had agreed to. I just silently told myself they could all think what they wanted, but I knew my answer was no, and it would still be no a week from now. He called the family back and told them none of them were to contact me in any way, shape or form for the whole week, and when I had made my decision, he would call them and let them know what it was. They were angry, but they never contacted me again. Almost 2 years later, I married the new guy who had emailed my dad. Remember him? Smile. He was not a member of our cult, and taught me how to think for myself. Our courtship looked a lot more like dating than anything else and made a lot of people upset, but we didn't care. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary and we have 3 sons. I feel like I was rescued. TL, doctor, I grew up in a cult. My parents wanted me to marry some guy I barely knew. I put up with it for way too long until it just got too ridiculous. Super fast edit, guys. Please do not hunt down and harass the guy in this story. This was many years ago, and just because I'm finally able to open up about it does not mean I'm ready for the backlash that would come if he, his family or his friends, many of whom are my friends, felt attacked. Also, his family did not claim to be part of the same cult we were in, they just believed most of the same stuff we did. I know that's going to be something they will complain about if they get a hold of me. Please just take it as a crazy story and leave it where it is. I appreciate the support, but going after this guy could only hurt me more. Thank you for understanding. Edit number 2, to the person I made the first edit for. Thank you for removing the review, whoever you are. I want you to know that I so appreciate the fact that you were willing to put your support into action for me, and then understood when I needed something different from you. You seem like a truly wonderful person who is ready to do anything to defend what is right. I really feel so touched that you would do that. You were not wrong, this was not a boring red butternut. Congratulations, not many people find the courage to leave situations like these. Lol, thanks. I tried to shorten it, but gave up. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Triangular flag on post, 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 triangular flag on post. P.S. You should get some individual therapy. Lol, I've been told that there were a lot of other things I was taught in that cult that I'm still learning are actually not true. Maybe I will get counseling someday. This is wild. It blows my mind how so many people think that guys and girls can't be friends without it being sexual in some way. I'm a girl, and my best friend in the entire world is a guy. And there is nothing sexual about it, never has been. Anyway, I'm so glad that you're in a better place now with someone who really cares about you. Thanks for sharing your story. It's because those people can't comprehend restraint. They know that, without the threat of extreme consequences, they would be dry humping anything with legs, including the kitchen tables. They can't fathom that other people might not be as obsessed with coconut as they are. I'm glad you found happiness in the end, Op. Thank you so much. Smile. Do you still have contact with your family, after all the horrible things? It's been difficult. My family eventually came out of the cult too, but my mom showed her true colors as a plain old abusive narcissist, so after many years of excusing her behavior, I had to go no contact. She actually left the whole family a few years ago and my dad finally found someone who will be a good mother to my siblings. I like her a lot.